Tributes poured in over the weekend after the surprising death of actor Chadwick Boseman. He died Friday after a quiet 4-year battle with colon cancer. Boseman immortalized Black icons on the screen like James Brown, Jackie Robinson, and Thurgood Marshall. But it was his role as King T'Challa of Wakanda, the first Black superhero in his own movie, that people say was his most iconic.
Seeing a Black actor as a superhero is like seeing myself as a superhero. It's like seeing me up there.
Seeing them on the screen, it means that if I grow up and play my card trick, I could be on the screen just like them.
The actor never spoke publicly about his colon cancer diagnosis, which he had while filming Black Panther. The death of Boseman is highlighting the racial disparities of colon cancer, which is more prevalent and deadlier for African Americans. Tom Hansen reports.
The death of Black Panther star Chadwick Boseman at age 43 from colon cancer hit many people hard.
Why him? And why not me?
Like Boseman, CBS News contributor Ibram X. Kendi was diagnosed with colon cancer in his 30s after experiencing months of symptoms.
I thought I was healthy. If my wife, Siddiqa, did not more or less order me to get a colonoscopy, then I would not be here right now.
From 2012 to 2016, colorectal cancer rates in Black people were 20% higher than whites. And for colorectal cancer death rates, that number jumped to 40% higher. Dr. Daniel Labo treats colon cancer patients at New York's Mount Sinai Hospital.
The racial disparity and the racial differences in treatment really go across the entire spectrum of the survival and the outcome with that treatment.
Some medical organizations recommend that African Americans get colorectal screenings at age 45 instead of the general recommended age of 50. But over the last decade, a growing number of cases have been detected in even younger adults.
If you're a young person, the actual incidence of the disease is still quite low. But if you have symptoms like bleeding, unexplained change in bowel habits, things like that, go to your doctor and get tested.
Kendi says Black Lives Matter isn't just about police violence. It's also about racial health disparities.
If you have a negative relationship to medical providers because you've been subjected to racism or people haven't been listening to you, then you're going to be less likely to go to the doctor.
Last Friday marked the second anniversary of Kendi finding out he was cancer-free, the same day Boseman died. Tom Hansen, CBS News, New York.